Jesus Christ, a central figure in Christianity, often found himself at the heart of controversy during his earthly ministry. His actions and teachings frequently clashed with the established religious and societal norms of his time, as vividly portrayed in the Gospel of Mark. These controversies not only challenged the status quo, but also illuminated the transformative nature of his message. Through incidents involving forgiveness, the observance of the Sabbath, and his association with societal outcasts, Jesus provoked questions that echoed far beyond his immediate audience. The leaders of the time, particularly the Pharisees and scribes, saw Jesus' practices as radical and potentially threatening to their authority. Yet for many others, Jesus' actions opened a new way of understanding God's laws and the essence of righteousness. Understanding these controversies requires a look not only at the events themselves, but also at the socio-religious context of the era. Each controversy, whether it involved breaking societal taboos or reinterpreting religious practices, asks the people of Jesus' time and challenges us today to reconsider what it means to truly live a life aligned with God's will. One of the earliest and most striking controversies in the Gospel of Mark revolves around Jesus' interaction with a paralyzed man, as told in Mark chapter 2, verses 1 to 12. When Jesus not only heals the man but also forgives his sins, he immediately incites disapproval from some religious leaders who view his claim to forgive sins as blasphemous. Scribe, according to Jewish law, only God could forgive sins, and here was Jesus, a carpenter from Nazareth, assuming a divine prerogative. This moment underscores a recurring theme in Jesus' ministry, challenging religious authority and expanding the understanding of divine power. The dramatic scene of the paralyzed man being lowered through the roof by his friends demonstrates the desperation and hope that Jesus' presence inspired in the common people. It's a vivid tableau of faith and the transformative power of compassion, which directly contrasted with the skepticism of the religious elites watching. Pharisee, their immediate focus on the legal implications of Jesus' words rather than the miraculous healing highlights the rigid and often compassionless application of religious law that Jesus frequently criticized. His actions posed a direct challenge to the religious leaders' authority and their interpretation of the Torah. This episode, rich in drama and theological significance, invites believers to reflect on the nature of forgiveness and the accessibility of God's grace. Another poignant example of Jesus challenging social norms is his interaction with Levi, a tax collector in Mark chapter 2, verses 13 to 17. Tax collectors were widely despised in Jewish society for their role in supporting the Roman occupiers and often for their dishonest practices. By choosing to not only call Levi as a disciple, but also to dine at his house with other tax collectors and sinners, Jesus starkly contrasted the prevailing social and religious exclusivity. The meal at Levi's house was not just a simple dinner, it was a symbolic act that emphasized Jesus' message of inclusivity and grace. Pharisee, why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners? Jesus, it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. This controversy highlights the tension between Jesus' radical inclusivity and the rigid purity laws that governed Jewish social interactions at the time. By openly associating with those deemed unrighteous, Jesus not only questioned these societal boundaries but also redefined what it meant to be a follower of God. This inclusive vision was revolutionary and threatened the social fabric and religious gatekeeping of the time. Section 4, Sabbath Healings, Disrupting Religious Norms. Jesus' actions on the Sabbath provide some of the most illustrative examples of his clashes with religious authorities. The Sabbath, a day devoted to rest and worship, was governed by strict laws that prohibited work. However, Jesus' healings on this holy day, as depicted in several passages in Mark, including the healing of a man with a withered hand, brought him into direct conflict with the Pharisees. Jesus, as Jesus, is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save life or to kill? This rhetorical question highlighted the often legalistic and heartless nature of the Pharisees' adherence to the law. Jesus positioned the Sabbath not as a burden, but as a day to fulfill God's intent of benevolence and mercy towards humanity. The incident in the synagogue where Jesus heals the man with the withered hand serves as a critical moment of confrontation. It exposes the hypocrisy of the Pharisees, who maintained a strict outward observance of the law while neglecting its deeper moral and ethical implications. Jesus, as Jesus, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Section 5. Divine power or demonic influence. The miracles performed by Jesus were not only signs of his divine authority but also sources of significant controversy. In Mark 3:22, the teachers of the law accused Jesus of being possessed by Beelzebub, claiming that he drove out demons by the prince of demons. Pharisee, as Pharisee, he is possessed by Beelzebub. He drives out demons by the prince of demons. This allegation reflects the deep skepticism and threat felt by the religious authorities towards Jesus' growing influence among the people. They attempted to discredit his miraculous powers by attributing them to demonic sources, thus framing his works as malevolent rather than divine. Jesus, as Jesus, how can Satan drive out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. By accusing him of demonic possession, the Pharisees sought to undermine his credibility and authority. This charge was not only a theological assertion but also a strategic move to preserve their control over the religious sentiments of the populace. Jesus' response to these accusations was both direct and profound. He spoke of a kingdom divided against itself being unable to stand, thereby logically refuting the claim that he could be casting out demons through demonic power. Section 6. Misunderstood by his own allegations of insanity. The Gospel of Mark not only recounts external conflicts with religious authorities, but also depicts personal misunderstandings and familial strife. In Mark 3:21, Jesus' own family attempts to seize him, claiming Mary, as Mary, he is out of his mind. This stark accusation from his family highlights the profound misapprehensions about Jesus' actions and intentions. Even those closest to him struggled to comprehend the scope and nature of his mission, perceiving his unconventional behavior not as a sign of divine purpose, but as a reason for concern. This familial intervention reflects the broader societal inability to grasp the transformative implications of Jesus' ministry. It underscores a common theme in his life, being misunderstood by those he came to save. This incident reveals the loneliness and opposition Jesus faced, not just from adversaries but from within his own circle, adding a deeply human aspect to his divine mission. Despite familial doubts and societal opposition, he continued to move forward with his mission, demonstrating a profound commitment to his calling. Section 7. The broader impact, Jesus' mission and legacy. The controversies surrounding Jesus' life as depicted in the Gospel of Mark were not merely historical footnotes. They were indicative of a profound shift in religious thought and community standards. Each controversy, whether it involved forgiveness, Sabbath observance, or social interactions, challenged the prevailing norms and invited a reevaluation of what it meant to live a godly life. These instances of conflict and misunderstanding were integral to Jesus' mission of revealing a new covenant between God and humanity. Jesus' willingness to engage with and challenge societal and religious norms was a hallmark of his ministry. It showcased his role not just as a healer and teacher, but as a revolutionary figure who sought to transform not only individual lives, but also the structures of religious authority and social interaction. His actions and teachings prompted discussions and debates that have lasted centuries, influencing countless generations of theological thought and practice. Moreover, the controversies that mark Jesus' ministry highlight his approach to divine law as a living, breathing guide for ethical living, rather than a set of rigid rules to be followed unquestioningly. This dynamic interpretation of the law has been a cornerstone of Christian ethical and moral thought, emphasizing the principles of love, mercy, and justice over mere ritual compliance. The legacy of Jesus' controversial life prompts ongoing dialogue about the nature of religious authority, the inclusivity of community, and the balance between tradition and transformation in spiritual practice.